Hi, everyone. Welcome to Suppers and Soirees. I'm Michelle Mize, your host and founder of Sun Cookery. Here we are again for, I don't know what number episode this is, but I am always excited to have someone on as a guest. And this week, I have a very good friend, a colleague in the industry of hosting and entertainment and food. And we are just ready to dive in and have a great conversation. And I actually, before I get introduce Karen officially, I want to tell you how I met her because I think it's really important to talk about connection and how just random stuff can change your entire life, which is what we talk about at Sun Cookery. It's what we talk about at Suppers and Soirees, and that is connecting with others by opening your front doors. And in this case, it wasn't about a front door, but it was about an email and a phone call, and then a regular phone call that brought me together with Karen. And the parallels that her and I have are insane. And that's what I want to tell you about. So I was in a women's business group, and Karen had joined. And after one of our meetings, she reached out to me and said, would you like to just have like a side conversation outside of our group? And we did. And that turned into a weekly call, and we started supporting each other and each other's goals in our businesses. And then the real connection started to happen when I found out that we were kind of born and raised and have Southern roots, and our paths have crossed in so many crazy ways. And now she has found herself in the Midwest, just like I found myself in the Midwest. And we have blended families, and it was just crazy. So that is why today I'm really excited to have this great friend of mine on to share with you her business, her hosting repertoire. We're going to have such a fun discussion. I think you're going to love hearing a different perspective on everything. And I really just want to give you a full overview of Karen through a huge set of questions I have ready for her. And I can't wait to hear all her answers. So with all that said, let me introduce Karen, and her company is Loop and Dash. So Karen, just give us your own little intro and overview.
Well, first of all, hello. I am so happy to be here. I think that this Suppers and Soirees podcast is such an exciting thing that you're doing, and the conversations are great, and I am just excited to be a part of it. So I'm Karen. I'm the founder of Loop and Dash, and we help busy families take the stress out of dinner time so that they can focus more on connecting with the people that they love. It's through a membership, and we have easy to follow recipes, menus, grocery lists, a whole slew of resources that just help simplify dinner time for busy families. It all came about through my own experience of being a full-time working mom with a full-time working husband, blended family with 4 kids, and we really decided early on that we wanted to make dinner time really an intentional part of our day. We wanted to make sure that we were connecting, spending time with our kids, and that is not an easy thing to do. So through some trial and error, I came up with a system that worked for us, and now I'm happy to share that with other families.
We'll dig in a little bit more about your blended family. I mean, let's get to the root of this, which is the number of people you are feeding. Okay.
Yeah, so we're a blended family of 6. So we have 4 kids and 2 dogs and a partridge in a pear tree. I mean, it's a little crazy right now. They're all teenagers, but when we first merged our families, they were young. I mean, I think our youngest was 3 at that time, and they were all preschool, elementary school age. And, you know, we really just wanted to make sure that the time that we were all together, we were able to really be intentional about connection.
I love that. And this is again one of our parallels, right? Is
Right.
I have a blended family, which is what brought me to the Midwest from the South 15 years ago. And that, especially as a mom, I mean, let's just be real, right? I think emotionally we carry a completely different set of emotions,
Right.
right?
And guilt. And,
Yes,
you there is a lot of guilt there where you're not with your kids all the time. So,
yeah.
I don't know, it's just always been really important to me to make sure that when we are all together, that we're using that time in the best way possible.
Right. And I think obviously given your passion for food, and being around the table, right? It just became so important to you to say, all right, I'm going to make the best of every one of these moments at the table. I'm going to create something that is simple but beautiful and whole, and
Yeah.
gives me the time to show my family the love that I feel. And I think so many people do that. I mean, especially those of us who enjoy cooking and enjoy being in the kitchen. It is our love language. It is how we show our love and our appreciation for others. And I mean, I this is one of the probably one of the primary reasons I just fell in love with Karen and Loop and Dash was because I really could relate. And I know there's tons of people out there listening and tons of people out there in the world, that women especially and men, that just feel that way. Um,
Well, I
life.
mean, some of my favorite memories from growing up are, dinner time memories, sitting around the
Mhm.
table, goofing off, talking. And it wasn't always a culinary masterpiece. I mean, a lot of times it was simple, simple, good food. And it was, I mean, my mom just was like feeding her family.
Right.
So I just want to be able to give that to my kids too. And I think in today's age, we're so busy and so scheduled, and kids have so many activities, and there's just so much going on that people miss the simplicity of just sitting down around the table together.
Well, I know that you have your, I mean, I feel like both of us have lived many lives, right? We both have great worldly experiences. We're not going to talk about age. We're going to talk about the experiences we've had in life, right? But I think one of the things, without having to dig into your career necessarily, or your previous career, or your life path, I would like you to share, you know, obviously you shared kind of why you decided to start this. However, do you have a cooking background? Do you like, what is it that, what inspired you to start in this industry and say, I'm going to do this? Is there a person or a moment in time that you're just like, I'm going in this direction. Let's see. Because I think that's important for people to hear just in general, because um, there's so many people in, let's just say, in the hospitality, the at home hospitality space, right? And we
Yeah.
all have a point of view, but I think I would really like to hear, or for you to share, just like, what made you go, I'm doing this. This is critical. I have to do it. I'm gonna start sharing my menus and taking beautiful pictures. By the way, everyone needs to get on loopanddash.com. You need to see her website. You need to download the app. You need to see the gorgeous food, because I'm a foodie. I'm a trained culinary chef, but I love looking at Karen's feed. I love looking at everything she's doing, because it's pretty and it's clean and it's bright and it's crisp. So, I mean, did you have a food background? Did you have a photography background? Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's get
So
to the nitty gritty on that.
funnily enough, I did never cooked growing up. My mom cooked. My grandmother was a great cook. I was just like, no, I'm busy. I have my own thing going on. My sister used to cook with my mom all the time. I was just never really into it. I've always loved food, but I was never into cooking. And then when I got out on my own, that's when the Food Network became so big. And I was like, huh, I think I can do this. So I basically taught myself how to cook through watching the Food Network and trial and error.
Awesome.
And I have a thing for cookbooks. I have a huge cookbook collection, and I just loved trying out different recipes. And I think I built off of that, and then I had the confidence to create my own recipes. Not to say that they've always gone, that always goes well, because my kids will tell you that some of them are horrible. I remember
They
they
bombed.
still give me a hard time about one time in particular that I was on sort of a vegetarian kick, and so I tried to make these like chickpea patties. It was I mean, it was horrible. Like when I tell you it was a disaster, it was a disaster. And they're all sitting at the table, trying to eat and be polite and not say anything. And I sat down last, of course, because that's what always happens. And I said, well, how is it, guys? And they were like, why don't you try it and tell us what you think? And I took it back and I was like, we're ordering pizza. Like, this is just not going to happen tonight. So,
But
it's not always sunshine and rainbows. But it's getting in there and trying. And mostly, yeah, I've taught myself, but I love food. I love trying different foods. I love for my kids to try different foods. That's something that we've always valued is, not just feeding kids chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese, but really trying to
yeah.
expand expand their horizons and what they are exposed to.
Well, I think what's important, or what I want to highlight from what you said, is so that, because this is what I feel like makes Loop and Dash so like available, accessible to anybody. Listen to this, everyone. Karen did not cook. And
No, I
she
know.
taught herself through I mean, that's the era we grew up in, was Food Network. Heck, I remember Emeril Lagasse's before he was on Food Network and he had his own show. Like, we lived that when all of a sudden, I mean, I know we had Julia Childs, but it was definitely Food Network, that you had all these different personalities that you could connect with, different styles of cooking. That's when you really started to understand, oh, there's different ingredients and all this. So I want everyone to understand that, like, clearly, that is what makes Loop and Dash so accessible. She's done the things, Karen's done the
Yeah.
things, she's bombed the recipes, she's found the ones that keep it simple and beautiful and delicious so that you can get around the table quicker. And I think that is like, I'm so glad you shared that with us, because that is, to me, is what just differentiates you in this space of, menu planning for your family. It's so awesome.
Yeah. And you know what? I probably don't do everything perfectly. Hey, I don't think that there's one way to do things. I think that you find what works for you, and it's trial and error. And I
Yeah.
think the more you do it and the more you cook and the more you experience things and the more you mess up, the more confidence you have in the kitchen.
So, Karen, I want to kind of loop back, haha, no pun intended, loop back to the why of this episode. Every episode, we have a very clear, like, storyline or objective. And why I wanted to have Karen from Loop and Dash on is that I believe Karen's business fills a gap for a lot of people who like to host. And that gap is the food part. So that is the why for today. We're going to be talking about, specifically for those of you who say, I love to host, but I am outsourcing the food, or I would rather just order the pizza or whatever. I think Karen's business and what she offers can fill that gap, whether you're hosting a small group or a large group, and we'll talk about that later. I mean, she's got plenty of recipes that are out there that can be, more casserole style, more family style, that can work in a hosted environment. So that is the why of our episode, is really how we're filling the food gap of hosting. But before we dive into all that good stuff, I have to start off with my P's and C's. It's a segment where we like to kind of put our guest in the hot seat. And, we say hosting for connection, not perfection, but we all have our own talents and our own focus. So sometimes we can be more perfectionist about things in hosting, and sometimes we're just like, oh, heck, it's just to get together, and that's the connection part. So, Karen, we want to know where you are on the spectrum. Okay. I have a feeling I know where she's at. I'm just going to say I'm visualizing a straight line.
Well, let me tell you, my mantra for 2025 is less perfection, more connection. So this is perfect.
Okay, this is so perfect. Okay, so P is for perfectionist, C is for connection, meaning you're going to let it go and just let the hosted event happen. So talk to us about invitations. Where are you on the invitation scale?
Okay, I love a good invitation. Like, I love, love, love a good invitation. I am maybe a little bit of a stationery addict, but when it comes to real life, I rarely send out a, perfect invitation. A lot of times, especially with close friends, it's a text, or if we're having a larger party, it'll be an Evite or something digital. But I mean, I do love a good invitation, but I don't always do it.
Okay, you're right. You just want to get the message out there. We're getting together, and you'll
Right.
use whatever channel. Okay, I love that. I'm also a stationery addict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like walking into paper stores. There's
I
nothing like.
know. I know. There's this beautiful paper store in Chicago that I used to go to when I lived there, and I think I spent hours and would not buy anything. That's the
Right.
worst part. I was like, what do I really need this for? Okay, so what about let's talk about menu. How do you tackle the menu and the food? Are you more perfectionist or connection?
I would say, gosh, you're right. I probably am right down the middle. And I think it depends too on the audience or the who you're inviting. If it's a group of really close friends, maybe it'll be like a chili night where you have different kinds of chilies, or, you know, tacos and tequila. I mean, something fun and festive, but easy. I really like things that you can make ahead of time.
Okay.
So that's one of my favorite hosting tips, I would say. I don't know if this is the
Okay.
section for
No,
that, but
go ahead.
but if it's a larger group or something more formal, then yeah, the food becomes a really big focus.
Okay. And no, I love that tip. I mean, that's a highlight. That'll be on our blog. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it some more. But I
Well, I
agree
think
with
that's
you.
so easy. I mean, I'm just sort of an anxious person. So anything that I can do to eliminate the anxiety before hosting, I try to do. And one of those things is making sure I'm as prepared as possible. So anything that I can make ahead of time where I'm not welcoming people into my home and trying to finish cooking and trying to, set anything that I can do ahead of time, I'm going to do.
And you know what, Karen, that is probably where I am on my end, and this is really about you. And I just want to say this because you're making me. Yeah,
You tell.
I think it's a good thing to share that I have evolved as a hostess because over the years I feel like in a less perfectionist way, because I went to cooking school, I always have grand visions of a menu. I mean, I have it out to a T. Every part tells a story. I used to build menus where the welcome cocktail flavor they wrapped up at the end of the night in the dessert. I mean, I was very distinct, but it got me in trouble so many times where it's too many elements for a certain size group. And unless you have assistants, and I don't have assistants, and you're right, it's so stressful because when you're too much of a perfectionist around the food and you've got people coming in, you lose the entire purpose of hosting, which is to greet your guests, hang out with your guests. So I think that's a great hosting tip that you just shared, which is anything that you can create in advance, have in the fridge, pop in the oven. It
Yes.
it allows all of that. Okay,
Well, and then
so
you're more
yeah,
relaxed, and then
yeah,
you're a better host because then you
yeah.
you can enjoy the party or the dinner or the whatever too.
Right, 100%. Okay, so what about entertainment? Let's talk about like entertainment or games or conversation starters. To me, they kind of all that's one bucket. Like that's the vibe, right? How are you when it comes to setting the vibe?
I am really relaxed with setting the vibe. I feel like if you have a good environment where people feel comfortable and relaxed, like the vibe kind of takes care of itself. I'm all about a good playlist. So
Okay.
that's my vibe setting. I guess you would say, but no, we don't really do a lot of games or anything like that. It's just sort of let the night flow as it will.
Okay. Okay, I like that.
I guess what is that more C, or I guess that's more C then,
I
right?
think that's more connection. And but that also I just wanted to share, knowing you as well as I know you now, that is your style. And see, that's one of the things that I try to push with Sun Cookery and with hosting is that really when you're hosting, your whole point is to be you. You do
Yeah.
you. And so that doesn't surprise me at all with you because you are really laid back. You're so welcoming. Um, I don't ever feel any stress or tension around you. So I know what a great host you are. So yeah,
Aw,
I think that's all about connection.
yeah.
Okay, so anything else with regards to perfection or connection when it comes to hosting that comes to your mind about your style?
I do love to set a pretty table.
Oh, okay. I forgot about the table. I forgot about decor. I'm glad that's why I threw it over to you. I'm like, wait, there's one more element, decor.
Yeah. No, I do love to set a pretty table. And
Okay.
I think it shows sort of, I guess that's more on the P side for decor. But I think that it shows that I don't know if respect is the right word, or it shows that you're valuing the time that you're spending with the people that you're hosting. Like you put the extra effort in. It's like when you get dressed up to go out to dinner. It shows that you are putting your best foot forward, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You care. You care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
maybe
do.
a P on that side.
For sure. Yeah, but what's interesting about your answer though is that that's what's important to you because you want to show that you care and you've put a lot of thought into it. But that is ultimately to try to show that part of you that's bringing people together. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it all. I think what I think what so many people do is they wrap themselves up in that and it doesn't show who they are, right?
Right.
Like you can be inspired by magazines or a Pinterest board or something you saw or whatever, but it's the stressing out over it doesn't look like this. I love to see people's inspiration and how they put it together. One of my favorite tabletops that a friend did, she invited us over for a birthday party for her daughter, and it was in Wisconsin in spring, which is, as you know, in the Midwest, spring is really still the winter. And she had these cute snowflake like decor pieces. I almost think they were like pot holders. I don't know. They were beautiful. They were kind of like these thick felt cutouts of snowflakes, but then she had some also of spring flowers and she intermixed them and she goes, well, that's because that's what's happening right now. it's
So true. So
it's
true.
it's winter slash spring and this is how I feel today. And I loved that. I mean, it made perfect sense.
But I think you hit on something though, and part of hosting is being who you are. So,
Yep.
like to me, I love pretty things. So setting a pretty tablescape is sort of my thing. But if that's not your thing,
Oh, yeah.
and playing games or doing something more fun and active, and that's who you are, then go for that.
Yep.
I mean, all of this hosting dinner around the table, it's all just a vehicle for connection, right? Even the food
Yep.
is it's delicious. We all love food, but it's really so that you can make people feel loved
Yep.
and taken care of. And yeah,
Yep.
it's just all about connecting.
Yep. Yep. Well, good. Well, thanks for letting me put you in the hot seat.
That's fine. I like that.
But
That's fine.
I also think for people who are listening, if they're not watching on YouTube, if they're listening, just knowing where our guests stand on that, it lets you know where, it's showing us more about your personality and your style. So I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So we're jumping into our why, and I wanted to talk about and really dive into Karen's hosting style, and so that listeners that are hung up on food, we usually have a section called wine about it, like what would you whine about? Well, the wine about it is our why. I want our podcast today to be our discussion today to be all about the people that whine about the food element of hosting. Because I
Yeah.
think that is a major like non-starter for people. I have had plenty of people say, I am not hosting because I don't want to deal with the food and it's not my thing. And that is the part that stops them from hosting it all. And so that's our entire purpose behind this conversation today. And so let's talk about just to you directly, Karen, what is your favorite type of gathering to host? Your favorite type? Because I know you host a lot. I know you do your family get-togethers. You're bringing your blended family together on the days when everybody's together and the days when they're not. I know that you host a lot for business purposes. I know you host a lot in your community, in your kids' network of friends. So I know that you're always hosting at your home, but what is your specific type of gathering, your favorite to host?
Well, right now, the season of life that we're in is teenagers. So we have our 4 kids right now are 13, 14, 15, and 17. So it's fun.
Wait, can we pause? 13, 14, 15, and 17.
Yes.
You are in it to the neck.
Yeah, we're in it. We're in it right now for sure. So right now, I would say my favorite type of gathering to host is our really good friends and all of their kids who are all the same ages. And, there's 20, 25 people running around and everybody's having fun. It's casual. Like I said, a lot of times we'll do tacos, we'll do like a taco bar, or we'll do make your own pizzas, or, stuff that can be a crowd pleaser that isn't super specific. Everybody can put whatever toppings they want on tacos. Right. Everyone can put whatever toppings they want on pizza. So that's sort of the season that we're in right now. We're recording this towards the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, and we just had a ton of holiday hosting. So for holiday hosting, I love to do just like heavy apps. And again, a lot of the stuff that you can make ahead of time, but people are, more like a cocktail party vibe where good food, but stuff that people can pick up with their fingers or I don't know, carry around on a plate, not a big sit down shebang. So yeah, those are kind of my favorites right now.
And I like that too, because I love like a chili. I think tacos are so fun and easy. And you know what? I don't think in tacos, my daughter will go, are we really doing tacos again? I'm like, everybody likes them. It's easy.
Everybody likes them. And you can mix it too. You can, like we just did, we just hosted a big party and we did shredded salsa verde shredded beef tacos, which is one of the most popular recipes in the Loop and Dash app. And it is so easy and it's so delicious. You can make it for dinner. You can double it and make it for, a huge crowd. So that's really good. You can do chicken tacos. You can do ground beef tacos. They're just, it's endless and you can mix up the toppings. So,
and don't you think also for people, and I brought this up, I think a couple episodes ago, or it got brought up in one of my conversations about the financial components of hosting, right? When you're hosting, and if you're providing all the food, I would say tacos is one of those that lands in a very cost-effective spot of hosting when it comes to food, right? Because it's not as much meat as you think per taco, and you're filling up people's bellies with a starch from the shell, some fat or cream from sour cream or cheeses or whatever, so it's a little bit of everything all bundled up, and all of that. I would say tacos is one of the more cost-effective menus you could put for a larger gathering. Don't you agree?
I would agree. Another thing that we like to do in the summers is we'll do different kinds of salads, like an entree salad and grill, so then you have your protein that you're grilling and your salad you can make completely ahead of time. And it's filling, it's good, cost effective, like you said. That's one of my favorite things to do in the summer.
Okay, love it. Okay, so you talked earlier about your chickpea disaster.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Well, let's just make it broader. Tell us about one of your most memorable hosting disasters. Like, have you had one? First of all, have you even had one?
Oh yeah. So one time we were having a very fancy dinner party around Christmas and I wanted to make a beef tenderloin. I think you know where this is going.
I do.
And so I would not recommend this, but I'm notorious for trying a recipe like for the first time. I know it's horrible. I shouldn't never do it, but I'm ambitious, so I just do this sometimes. And I had never done this particular recipe for beef tenderloin, and beef tenderloin is not inexpensive.
Right.
So I followed this recipe and my whole kitchen was like smoky because I used butter and it's a high temperature and then the butter, splatters on the oven and then it smoked. It was horrible, but we figured it out and it was fine. And it actually was delicious.
Okay,
but
good.
we just thought we were gonna have to call the fire department before everybody got there. It's fine.
Now, did you keep your cool or did you just open another bottle of wine?
The second option. I was like, you know what, this is it. It will be fine. It was a little stressful, but I think too. I mean, I don't know. What's the worst that can happen? You have to order pizza or something. And
Right.
most of the time, if you're inviting people into your home, they know you, they
Yeah.
like you, you're friends, you're at
Yeah.
least acquaintances or
You're
colleagues.
right.
Like
Right.
nobody's gonna hate you because you burned the beef tenderloin.
Right. Right. No, exactly. And I think that's another like kind of skipping around, but it's kind of like another whine about it for the people who say they avoid the food thing, right? It's like at the end of the day, I mean, there's a couple of tips there. Just don't do, and I've said this one 100 times. Do not test out a recipe the night you're hosting. Do not, do
No,
not, do not.
don't do
So
it.
don't do it. And secondly, don't worry about the end result. Just put your all into it. People are going to be fine. You can always adjust. I mean, I've dumped entire entrees before and said, I hope you guys like side dishes because this is what we're
Yeah,
doing. And
stuff happens.
yeah, it happens. Exactly.
Yeah.
So don't let that hold you back. I mean, and you just proved that you didn't let it hold you back. You did what you could. You got through the smoke. It was fine.
Well, and I would even say for people who really don't like to cook but want to host, buy the food at the grocery store that's
Yeah.
pre-made.
Yep.
I mean, seriously, we just hosted a dinner party and things switched. We were supposed to go out to dinner, and at the last minute, everyone's like, let's just not go out to dinner. Let's eat at home. And we had a million things going on. And I was like, you know what? We're getting lasagna and we're getting salad
Yeah.
and
That's
garlic
that.
bread. And that's what we're having. And it was delicious. And we had the best time. Nobody, oh, this would have been better if you would have made the lasagna from scratch.
Well, speaking of that, can you talk about, because I want to tie in, I like I like the idea of like, yes, just outsource at the grocery store or find your favorite deli, get a couple platters and you're good to go. However, when I go through all of the Loop and Dash recipes that are in there, I feel like there are so many that you could freeze in advance and you could almost have a little stockpile of some of those type of items that you can say, oh, I've got this covered. I mean, can you
Mhm.
talk about some of that you offer in Loop and Dash? Or some that top of mind that are like, yeah, this is a great one. Cause I know that is it the beef enchiladas? There's something that you have. And I came across it the other day when I was going through the app and I was like, oh, that's a great one to freeze. Like you could do aluminum platters of like a dozen of those. I mean, I feel like Loop and Dash has those kind of recipes in there that you just might want to double or triple. So Karen, you just mentioned, which I think is a great idea, right? Is like, hey, when you're on the fly or if something goes awry, you've always got your grocery store that probably does some kind of platters in advance or your favorite deli. However, I know just digging through Loop and Dash's repertoire of recipes, there are plenty of recipes that you have in place that could be doubled or tripled and could also serve as like, if you have the freezer space or if you're rolling into a certain season of hosting, whether it's the spring, the winter, the fall, the summer, the whatever, that you could use Loop and Dash's recipes to kind of bulk up and have some freezer meals in there for stuff like this.
Yeah,
Correct?
there's a ton of stuff like that. I mean, there's stuff that you could freeze. That we have a lot of slow cooker recipes, which I think are great for
Okay.
entertaining.
Yep.
Your house smells good. The food's ready when you're ready. You don't have to stress over it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that that you can do ahead of time, or do some cooking and add some pre-made components. There are just a lot of options that when you're hosting that can make things easier and make it a little less stressful.
Yeah. I mean, y'all really need to dig into Loop and Dash, and I think that's the one of my favorite components of that is when I'm just brain dead, and I'm trying to keep. Actually, what I would say is a benefit to me for Loop and Dash when it comes to food is you simplify it for me, and I need that, and I'm someone who loves the food component, but I get way wrapped up in my own foodie chefy self and I love that about Loop and Dash that it's beautiful ingredients, fresh ingredients, just pretty. and simple, and I can batch them out. I think that's like a huge like bonus, bonus, bonus. So I want to say that. I want to share that with everyone listening.
Well, do you know one of the main pieces of positive feedback that we get from our members is, I'm so glad I just don't have to decide what's for dinner. Because I think we all make a million decisions every single day. And then you're like, great, now I want to cook dinner, but what do I even cook? And you look on Pinterest or you look on some of these other apps, and there are thousands and thousands of recipes. And, Loop and Dash really does simplify that. We're like, here's your menu. If you don't like your menu, switch it out with something, switch out one of the recipes with something different.
Yeah.
And just cook this. Like, don't think about it. Don't worry about deciding. We try to, a lot of the point of Loop and Dash is to try to take some of these speed bumps or barriers away from getting dinner on the table. And I mean, researching recipes, you can go down a rabbit hole. So it's just one of the ways that makes it easier.
Yeah, agreed. And that's coming from a foodie trained cook person. Don't do, I mean, I only will start digging out. I mean, I have all my recipe books have flags around them and sticky notes for days because different things inspire me. Some of them are organized by an ingredient. But for the day to day, I get in my own way. That is what I whine about. I get in my own darn way. And the kids are like, Mom, you're a cook. Can't, and I'm like, oh, you're right. This is a little too much. And it's the simple, fresh, beautiful, get it on the table. That's what gets you through your week, So love that. Okay. So Karen, tell us about your hosting style or your hosting philosophy. Do you have one?
That's a good question. Gosh, put me on the spot. I just like to keep it relaxed. I like for everybody to have a good time. And like I said, I think that if you set up the environment for people to be relaxed and people to have a good time, then they will. Always have, a little appetizer for them to munch on when they first get there. Have the food mostly kind of done. Some good cocktails, never hurt. Good music.
Well, okay, so here's what you're not saying, so I'm going to say it for you.
Okay.
Karen's talking like, this is just my hosting philosophy, which is a very, like, you're covering all the bases. But I think what's important, or at least that I want to share, is you were either experienced a lot of hosting in your lifestyle or in your lifetime. You were around a lot of great hosts. I also know that you're from the South, where that is kind of a thing. So, we know we're taught at an early age, the front door is open, come on in. And all the things you're listing off is like kind of the stuff that is learned, I feel like. Don't you think? I mean, or it's just in your DNA?
My mom was a great host, and she wasn't a fancy, we're going to pull out all the stops host. She was just very warm and welcoming. I mean, I remember for Christmas parties for my dad's work, it was, everybody show up. Thanksgiving, if you don't have anywhere to go, come here. So, our Thanksgivings would be family, friends, neighbors, people who didn't have anywhere else to go. So I think just that warm, welcoming philosophy, I was exposed to a lot growing up, and that's what I try to bring to the table now.
Yeah, you're very good at it. Very good at it.
Thank you.
There's one thing that we talk about here too. So, when Suppers and Soirees, because we believe you can host as simple as a supper, right? Just like you do, dinner around the table every day. We can host something as amazing and over the top as a soiree. And then of course there's all the stuff in between. And one of the things that I like to hear from each one of our guests is Sunday supper. And so you and I both have that Southern
Mm-hmm.
connection. First, I want to know, did you call it dinner or supper growing up?
We called it both.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, growing up, it was supper or dinner, or like dinner seemed more formal. So like we'd have Sunday dinner.
Yeah.
And then like supper during the week, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, it's interesting to me because so many people say it interchange it differently. It's just a fun question. I always felt like supper was. Do
I was
what?
going to say, your family's from close to where my family's from. So,
Yeah.
you know, regionally, I think probably it was pretty similar.
Well, supper, yeah, I think so. Supper, the way I remember it growing up was supper was where after church on Sundays, we went over to my grandmother and grandfather's house and had supper. But it
Hmm.
wasn't at night. It was
Yeah.
like midday supper. I mean, we'd probably get over there around noon or one, but sometimes we didn't really eat. It was weird, like two or three. It was just whenever everything came together. So we called that supper. And then my grandma would just leave all the leftovers out, and then you would kind of pick for as long as you were there. Like if we were there all night, shooting the breeze with people, or the
Right.
biscuits were still laying out. No one worried about foodborne illnesses back then.
Oh, no, of course not.
It was just laying on the counter. But anyway, so do you have, whether it's a Sunday supper or a certain day of the week, I'm assuming it maybe changes in your household because of the blended family and all the scheduling, but do you have a regular, Sunday supper or get together that you guys do? And if you do, what does it look like?
We don't necessarily have like a Sunday supper, but I mean, there are times during the week where we're like, all right, tonight's like the nicer
Scheduled.
dinner. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, get
Okay.
more scheduled. Yeah.
Okay.
And it looks, I mean, it looks different. A lot of times our kids love food. Thank goodness, because that would be really inconvenient if they didn't. But a lot of times I'll just ask them what sounds good? What do you want? And then if it's a more complicated recipe or something like that, then that's when we have like the special Sunday supper dinner together.
I love
Something
it.
that takes a little bit more time because a lot of, during the week or most nights we're just trying to feed the masses, and it is the
Right.
masses right now because they all eat.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I love that. I just love Sunday. I love the idea of Sunday supper and a regular occurrence, no matter what day of the week it's on, or even, once a month, let's have our regular gathering. Um,
I would say we do like a breakfast more, like that's sort of the special on the weekend.
okay.
Cook a big breakfast. That's a big winner in our house right now.
Okay. You know what's funny about that? You saying that just now is actually the only day I like to go out to breakfast is on Sundays. My favorite thing is if my family will say, let's go to breakfast on Sundays. Cause I don't, for some reason, I get to Sunday and I don't want to start the day cooking. And
Yeah.
I like the idea of on Sunday, someone brings me a big breakfast.
I
Um,
like it when anyone cooks for me anytime.
all right, so we're about to wrap up, but is there anything, Karen, anything else that people need to know? Let's just wrap up with all about Loop and Dash, your subscription offerings, the app, how to get connected to you, your website, all the stuff. Just, I'm going to give you the floor.
All right. So Loop and Dash, our website is loopand dash.com. You can find us on Instagram at loop_dash. Let's see, the app is new this year. So that was a really exciting 2024 rollout. So our membership now is all housed within an app. So each week our members get a new menu with 4 easy to make recipes. The recipes, you can customize them by serving size. So
Love
they're
that.
they're normally 4 to 6 servings, and then you can do 2 servings, you can do 8 servings, 10, whatever you do, whatever you need to do to customize it.
And the app calculates that for you,
Yes.
correct?
So,
Jeez.
however you customize your menu, you can add more recipes. If you know that you're super super busy and you can only cook 2 nights, you can delete some recipes. You can create whatever menu works for you for that week. And you can even create your own menu. So if you have like your, 5 favorite recipes, create your own menu in there and then, use that whenever you want. And then based on your menu, you get a customizable grocery list as well. So it takes everything that you need to make all of those recipes and puts it into a grocery list that you can check off. You can look through your pantry, see what you have. If you need to add milk or you need to add eggs or whatever, you can add to it. And
Amazing.
then it also gives you a list of prep ahead instructions or ideas. So if you have lots of time on Sunday and you want to get ahead for the week, there are plenty of ideas for things that you can make ahead of time, either components of the recipes. Some recipes you can make completely ahead of time, where that way on the weeknight you're just warming things up.
Love it.
There's also a resource section that has, lots of resources on printable menu planners. There are ideas on how to just meal prep, meal plan, all sorts of stuff. And it's growing every time we create something new, we put it in there. So
Love
yeah.
it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
There is absolutely, so see, everyone listening who whines about food, there is no excuse. You need to just hook up with Loop and Dash, get your subscription, you're set. You are absolutely set. Well, I love it. We're going to have in the liner notes for those of you who find us on any of our podcast channels. So whether it's Buzzsprout, Apple, Spotify, I know I'm missing one. We're on YouTube. I will put all the links in there. Also, go to Loop and Dash, get on her email newsletter. Same with suncookery.com. If you're not connected with us on email, you need to be, because that's where we send out freebies and things. Karen, I love you. I hope that I hope that you'll come back on again. I think Karen and I have some pretty big ideas that we've been toying around this past year as we've gotten to know each other and know each other's businesses. And I just want to share that our brands are so aligned in the fact that we just love to host at home. We know that it's a great way to connect with people. It's a tough world out there. It's a different world, and we both agree that food and hosting at home is just such a very authentic and organic way to bring people together from all parts of your life. And this is one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to having Karen on more often. And please send us feedback. Also, this is really important as we're getting this Suppers and Soirees podcast out there. We need to know what you like to listen to, what you like to hear. Are the tips great? Anything at all. We love feedback. So shoot it my way. I'm Michelle at suncookery.com, Michelle. And Karen, oh my gosh, thank you.
Thank you. This was
so
really
much.
fun.
It really is. I think that's all we've got. Love you to death. I don't know. I think we're rolling this one out at the beginning of January, so we'll be fresh into 2025. So I hope you have a great rest of the year as you wrap up these last couple days, and I can't wait to see what you're doing. I hope you are taking a little pause on all your hosting.
A little pause, yes.
A small pause. All right. Thank you, Karen. Y'all have a great one. Thanks for joining us. I'm Michelle, your host and founder of Sun Cookery. We'll see you next time on Suppers and Soirees.